Unit 10A. Our first word for this unit is adept, which is both an adjective and a noun. As an adjective, it means thoroughly skilled, and as a noun, it means an expert. So your synonyms for the adjective form are masterful and proficient. And proficient means skilled in doing or using something. You could be proficient at really anything. The noun synonyms, there are none at all. Your adjective synonyms are clumsy, unskilled, and maladroit, which is just another word for clumsy. And your noun synonym is novice, meaning someone who is new at something as opposed to being adept, being an expert at something. You have the adverb form, adeptly, and the noun form, adeptness. And my picture and my sentence go together. I watched in awe as she adeptly prepared the green peppers for the salsa in under 30 seconds. So you might use this as an adjective to say, the adept chef was able to cook meals very quickly and skillfully. You might use it as a noun to say the adept, the expert at something. You see this used as an adverb really commonly, adeptly, and really watching her chop that green pepper is incredibly impressive. I'm going to watch it one more time. You can write about it for your sentence if you'd like. It's amazing. All right. Our next word is chide, which is a verb really similar to a few other words we've had. You might notice in the synonyms some words we've had before. It's a verb that means to blame or scold. You can chide a person for doing something wrong. Your synonyms are upbraid, reprimand, rebuke, and chastise. Your antonyms are approve, praise, compliment, and pat on the back. And your other forms are just your other verb forms of the word, chided, chiding, and chides. Now, you may have seen this picture before as well, but again, it's a synonym of words like reprimand, so we have that same idea. Clearly, something has happened. The mother or adult, whoever that is chiding the child because clearly a basketball came through the window. My sentence is, I found myself chiding the students in the hallway for screaming outside the door when my students were taking a test, which happens from time to time. You might write a sentence about a time that you were chided, maybe by your parents, maybe by a teacher, maybe by your friends. You can say, so-and-so chided me for, and then give me that good context. Tell me what you got in trouble for, what you were blamed for, what you were scolded for. Our next word is despicable, and I'm hoping you are familiar with this word. Despicable is an adjective that means worthy of scorn or contemptible. Your synonyms are low, cheap, sordid, and detestable. Remember, you don't have to write down the explanation in parentheses for the synonyms or antonyms unless it helps you and you want to. But sordid means sleazy, unsavory, and debased, really negative words here. Your antonyms are praiseworthy, commendable, and meritorious, which means deserving rewards or praise. You can think of the word merit. Your other forms, we've got that adverb and noun word endings. Despicableness is your noun form. You can be full of despicableness, or despicably is your adverb form. You could describe the way someone does or says something as despicably. Obviously, that picture is from the movie Despicable Me. But my sentence, the behavior of the cheating student was completely despicable and led to them being kicked out of school. So I've got my usage of the word as an adjective. I've got my context, them getting kicked out of school, which hints at whatever the despicable behavior was bad enough to have somebody removed from school. So if I didn't know what that word meant, I would have hints in my sentence. I hope you have never done anything despicable, that you could invent a fictional sentence of something despicable that you or someone you know has done. Be school appropriate. Our next word is erroneous, which is an adjective. You might think the word error is in there. It's very close, and that might help you remember what the word means. Erroneous is an adjective that means incorrect or containing mistakes. So your synonyms are mistaken, fallacious, which means based on a mistaken belief or inaccurate, or all wrong. Your antonyms are accurate, correct, exact, and unerring. And your other forms, again, the adverb and noun endings, erroneously and erroneousness. In my sentence, I'm using the adverb form. I erroneously said I was the oldest teacher in the school. I'm not, and I can admit my mistake, but I'm still basically 107 years old. I have students that erroneously say things in class from time to time. So you could write a sentence about that if you'd like. Tell me what the incorrect, erroneous thing was that was said. Our next word is another two-part of speech word. It is exploit, which is both a verb and a noun. It is used pretty equally for both. So your verb form is to make use of, develop, or make improper use of for personal profit. You can exploit a person or land of some kind. And then the noun form is a feat or a deed. You can go on an exploit. You can have an exploit. You can have, go and complete this exploit, this feat, or this deed. Your synonyms for the verb form are turn to advantage or misuse. There are no noun synonyms and there are no antonyms, so a nice easy one there. Your other forms are just your other verb forms: exploited, exploiting, and exploits. In my picture, you can see that man carrying a bag called cheap labor, and it says, I call it opportunity, not exploitation. So he is taking advantage of cheap labor, which is something companies still do to this day, and I wrote a sentence about that. It is very common, well, it says it was very common for employers and businesses to exploit workers before laws were passed to protect workers and their rights. Now, in other countries, and even here, sometimes workers are still exploited, but it was much worse before laws were passed to prevent that. Our next word is impair, and it is a verb that means to make imperfect, damage, or harm. So you can impair something physically, like literally, or you can impair something more figuratively or metaphorically as well. Your synonyms are injure, disable, cripple, or enervate, which means to weaken. So you could enervate, you could impair maybe an enemy in a game that you were playing. Your antonyms are improve, strengthen, promote, and advance. Your other forms are two noun forms. The impairer is the thing or person who is doing the impairing, and impairment is the state of being impaired. Now, they're not on the slide, so I hope you're watching this video and not just pausing it as you go through. Please make sure you also write down your other verb forms: impairing, impaired, and impairs. ING, ED, and S endings. And this will tell me who's actually watching these video lessons. Now you can see in the picture, somebody's smoking a cigarette. It says on the cigarette, impairing your health. You could replace that with a vape, but it would be exactly the same thing. Smoking significantly impairs your health in many ways, but commonly it can cause respiratory issues and cancers, multiple types of cancers. So, maybe look that up and write a sentence about how vaping can impair your health so that you can tell your friends to stop doing it in the bathroom. Our next word is languid, which is a great word for my early in the morning classes. It's an adjective that means drooping, without energy, or sluggish. Your synonyms are lazy, listless, slack, and lethargic. Your antonyms are lively, energetic, vigorous, and enlivening. So again, the difference between me before coffee, languid, and me after coffee, not languid anymore. Your other forms are languidly, which is our adverb form, and languidness, which is our noun form. I have a picture of a cat sleeping because they are the most languid of the house pets that I can think of. And even though they sleep for over 20 hours a day, my cats are often languid in the evening and enjoy napping on my lap. For you, you might write about how you feel quite languid in the morning, and then you could add context about, what actually does help wake you up or what happens because you're languid. Maybe because you're languid, you fall asleep in class. Maybe you're not languid after you get some food in you or have some coffee or you see your friends, it wakes you up. So you could write a sentence about yourself for this one if it applies. Now, this is our tricky word of the unit. This is render, which is a verb. So the definitions are kind of confusing, so stick with me. Render can mean to cause to become. You can render something into another state, which is how my sentence is being used. It can mean to perform, to deliver officially. You could render a message to somebody. It can also mean to process or extract. Like in that picture, we are rendering meat. We are cooking what looks like sort of bacon or pancetta or something like that. We're rendering it. We're cooking it down. We're extracting all of the grease and oils from it, and we're getting just that sort of very crispy cooked piece of meat left over. We have rendered all the fat from the meat in the pan. We're going to drain it out. Your synonyms are present, furnish, submit, make, and effect. There are no antonyms. We've got our other verb forms for the word, rendered and rendering and renders, even though it's not there. Sorry about that. You have your noun form renderer, and then renderable is an adjective, but most often you see this as a verb. Now, a phrase you might hear is something was rendered useless, meaning it went from one state and it was caused to become unworkable. Maybe you left an electronic device out in the rain and it's been rendered useless. You can't use it anymore. It's caused to become unworkable. The water has damaged it. My sentence is similar to that. Back before cell phones were more water resistant, simply going out in the rain and getting your phone wet was enough to render it useless forever. So you could write a sentence using that same phrase, rendered useless. Maybe your brother threw your PlayStation controller across the room, smashed it against the wall, and it was rendered useless at that point. You couldn't use it anymore. Our next word is skeptical, which is an adjective. Hopefully you're familiar with this one because it's been in definitions for other words we've had. It means inclined to doubt, slow to accept something as true. So your synonyms are suspicious and incredulous. There's that word. Your antonyms are believing, credulous, gullible, and ingenuous, which means innocent and unsuspecting. Your other form is your adverb form, skeptically. So remember, just like some of you made the mistake with incredulous, you can be skeptical of something. So make sure that you're using that phrasing while you're writing the sentence. A story is not going to be skeptical. You will be skeptical of the story. You are inclined to doubt. The story is not. That baby's face just makes me think he's not believing what's happening right now. And my sentence, you claim this work is your own and original, but I'm skeptical because I don't know how often you use the word anachronism in your writing. I might question that. You might have told your parents a story about something. They may have been somewhat skeptical of the story you told. You could give me your reasons for why they didn't believe you. Not that you would ever lie, ever. And then finally, our last word for this unit, it's a really fun one. Slipshod is an adjective that means untidy in dress or personal habits, etc., or just something that is careless and sloppy. Your synonyms are messy, untidy, slovenly, slapdash, and cursory. Slovenly is just a fancy word for being messy and dirty. Your antonyms are tidy, neat, orderly, careful, and painstaking. And there are no other forms of this word that are common to use. So you can see in that picture, that is a really slipshod workstation. It's very sloppy. It's kind of messy, personal habits all over the place. But I'm writing a sentence about schoolwork, not that anyone would ever do this, but waiting until the night before your essay is due to write the final draft will most likely result in slipshod work and a low grade. Careless and sloppy work and a low grade. Again, this is a synonym of a former word, slapdash. So if you think about how you might use that word, you would use slipshod in about the same way. And this is Sadlier Level D, Unit 10A.